Okay, so up until this point, you have learned two methods for factoring. The first method is pulling out the GCF, just like we did in 3 and 4. We factor, right? Because we have a factor times a factor. So that's the first method of factoring. From here on forward, the first step when you factor, no matter what type of problem it is, you always need to look for a GCF first. That's always the first step. Now I'm going to tell you ahead of time, there are no GCFs in today's lesson. There will be on Wednesday. Okay, but no matter what, you want to get in the habit of thinking, is there a GCF? Okay, today there won't be, but we always need to check. The second method of factoring that we've learned is factor by grouping. When do we use factor by grouping? This was on Friday's lesson. When there's 4 terms, okay? When there's 4 terms, we use factor by grouping. We group the first 2, we group the second 2 terms. Okay, so we use factor by grouping when there's 4 terms. Today, we're factoring trinomials. A trinomial is 3 terms. Tri means 3, like triangle or tricycle. So ax squared plus bx plus c. Today, we're starting with trinomials when a, our lead coefficient, is 1. Okay? Wednesday, in section 7.6, we will factor trinomials when a is not 1. And that's actually this worksheet, the intro to factoring one that I passed out, that we're going to do tomorrow, is going to help us start to think about when a is not 1 for Wednesday. Okay? But today, we're just dealing with trinomials when a is 1. So you guys can see it doesn't even say a here, but you can see your a value is 1. So what we want to figure out is what 2 numbers multiply to c but add to b. Okay, those we are going to figure out what 2 numbers multiply to give me c but add to give me b, and then we're going to write it in. I'll show you. We'll write it in factors that look like this. Now, what I want you guys to notice is that we are doing FOIL backwards. Okay, when you guys took 2 binomials, you FOILed and you got a trinomial. Now we're just going the opposite way. So we are taking the trinomial and we're figuring out what the factors are. So because today your a value is 1, these are always going to be x's, because 1x times 1x will give you 1x squared. So first times first is 1x squared. Okay, this is why I said FOIL is very important. First times first is 1x squared. So today these are always going to be x's. Starting on Wednesday, they won't be just x's. They'll have numbers as well. But if a is 1, it's just x times x is first times first. And then I'll show you the rest of the FOIL in a little bit. Okay, so factor. Because this is 1x squared, because my a value is 1, then I know that this is going to be an x and this is going to be an x. Okay, again, just because this is first times first, and first times first gives me x squared. And you guys don't have to write that, I'm just showing you. And then we want to figure out what 2 numbers multiply to positive 8 and add to positive 6. Well, if those are both positive, then I know it has to be a positive times a positive, right? Okay? So what 2, you guys tell me. What times what multiplies to 8 and adds to 6? Good. Plus 2 plus 4. You got it. Good. So now let me show you the rest of the FOIL. First, outer is 4x, inner is 2x. So this 6x term is outer plus inner, right? 4x plus 2x, outer plus inner is 6x. And then we have the last times the last, 2 times 4 is 8. So there's your FOIL. First times first, last times last, and then the middle term is your outer plus your inner. I'll give you guys a second to just write that down. Okay, again, today we're just dealing with coefficients when your a value is 1. So what times what is x squared? Because it's just a 1x squared, it's just going to be x times x. So that's your first times your first. What two numbers multiply to give you a positive 36 and add to a positive 13? Well, they have to be positive, right? If they multiply to a positive and add to a positive. So you guys tell me, what two things multiply to 36 and add to 13? 9 and 4. Yep. So plus 9 plus 4. Good. So let's just check it. First times first is x squared. Good. I'm going to do last times last. 9 times 4 is 36. And then just check your outer plus your inner. Outer is 4x. Inner is 9x. 4x plus 9x, is that 13x? Yep. Good. All right, now our signs are going to be a little bit different. So again, this is 1x squared, so you guys know it's going to be x times x for first times first. Now, they're going to add, or sorry, they're going to multiply to a positive, but they're going to add to a negative. If they multiply to a positive and add to a negative, they both have to be negative. Right? Because a negative times a negative will be a positive, and then two negatives will add to a negative. Yes, so what are my numbers?
Negative 5 and negative 3.
-5 and -3. Good. So x minus 5, x minus 3. And then, guys, you always want to do a quick check. First times first is x squared. Boom. Last times last. -5 times -3 is positive 15. Good. And then you always check your outer and inner. Okay? Outer is -3x. Inner is -5x. -3x minus 5x is -8x. Perfect. We're good. Okay, so always do a quick FOIL check. First, outer, inner, last. All right. Same thing here, right? This is 1x squared, so we know it's going to be x times x to give me x squared. And then they multiply to a positive and add to a negative. So again, they both have to be negative then. -3, -3, good. Right? Because first times first, we get x squared. Last times last, we get positive 9. And then outer plus inner. -3x minus 3x is -6x. And you guys do not ever have to write any of this. That's just because I'm teaching it to you. Okay, you only just write your two factors, x minus 3, x minus 3. And the reason I'm being so diligent about writing this today is because it's really going to help you on Wednesday. Okay? All right. Notice, now we have a negative and a negative. So if two numbers multiply to be a negative, they have to be what two signs? Negative and positive. Right? So we have a positive and we have a negative. Does it matter if you put the positive here and the negative here or vice versa? No. Because it doesn't matter what order the factors are written in, because multiplication is commutative. It doesn't matter. You can multiply in any order, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, 7's prime. So what are my two numbers? 7 and 1, right? Positive 7. Oh, wait. Is it positive 7 minus 1 or negative 7 plus 1? Yeah. So -7 plus 1 will give me -6. Okay. So again, I always just check first times first is x squared, and this is what you guys will do in your head, right? First times first is x squared. Last times last is -7, and then we just check outer, -7x plus 1x. Outer plus inner is -6, so we're good. You just always want to do that part in your head. First, outer, inner, last. All right. Again, because you have two numbers that multiply to a -16, they have to be a positive and a negative. So what two numbers multiply to 16 and add to 6? Yeah. Positive 8 minus 2 will give you positive 6. Yep. So positive 8 minus 2 is positive 6. Good. And then again, just in your head, first times first is x squared, last times last is negative 16. And then just check your outer plus inner to make sure that it's right. Negative 2x plus 8x is positive 6x, so we're good. Questions? Okay. So the next section is we're going to combine what we did last Thursday when you guys were in class for the 7-4 lesson. Now we're going to solve the equation because there's an equal sign, right? We solve equations. And so we're just combining that. We're going to factor the left side, and then we're going to do what we did in 7.4, where we're going to set each factor equal to 0. So let's factor first. Oh, and the first step, you need to make sure that all of your terms are on one side so that it's equal to 0, which is already done for us. So they multiply to a positive, but add to a negative, which means they both have to be negative. They both have to be negative. Don't forget to write the equal 0 part. So, what two numbers multiply to 63? 9 and 7. Do those add to 16? Yeah, so we want, yes, negative 9 and negative 7 will add to negative 16. And negative 9 times negative 7 multiplies to positive 63. So again, just check first times first is x squared, right? Last times last, negative 9 times negative 7 is positive 63. And check outer inner. Negative 7x minus 9x is negative 16x, so we're good. All right, set each factor equal to 0. So we'll add 9 to both sides, and we'll add 7 to both sides, and we got our solutions 9 and 7. All right, so they multiply to a negative 4, which means we have to have one positive and one negative if they're going to multiply to a negative number. Yeah. And it's either 2 and 2 or 4 and 1. Which ones are going to add to 3? 2 and 2 or 4 and 1? 4 and 1. Good. So we want positive 4 minus 1 to give us positive 3. Okay? Positive 4x minus 1x gives me positive 3x. So then subtract 4 from both sides, add 1 to both sides. Okay, first step is to set it equal to 0, which we need to do here. Now, when you do that, you need to make sure that your terms are in standard form, meaning ax squared, and then the x term, and then the constant. So in this case, 27 is my constant, so it's going to go after the 12x. So we have x squared plus 12x plus 27, because we moved it over using inverse operations, equals 0. Don't forget to write the equals 0 part. Sometimes that gets forgotten, but we need the equals 0. All right, they're both positive, so we know that both of our factors are going to be plus and plus. What two numbers multiply to 27 and add to 12? 3 and 9. Yep. So just check. 9 times 3 is positive 27. Outer is 3x, inner is 9x. 3x plus 9x is positive 12x, so we're good. All right, so now we set each factor equal to 0. Subtract 9 from both sides, subtract 3 from both sides, and we get negative 9 and negative 3. You got to be really careful on the next one. Okay, we need to move all the terms to one side, so I'm going to add 6x to both sides. And now you guys tell me what to write. What should I write on the left-hand side? Yes, equals 0. Okay? Notice these are in order. X squared, then the x term that we moved over, then the constant. A lot of times students will switch these and they'll say x squared minus 7 plus 6. And they try to factor it and it doesn't factor. It doesn't make sense. Make sure you get make sure you get it written in standard form. So 7 is prime, which makes it really easy for us because it has to be 7 and 1. And now we just need to figure out the signs. Well, if they multiply to -7, then one of them has to be positive and one of them has to be negative in order to multiply to a negative number. Where does the 7 go and where does the 1 go?
-1 and +7.
Yeah, yep. Positive 7 minus 1 will give us positive 6x. Good. All right, and then set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So if we set that equal to 0, we'll subtract 7 from both sides. If we set this equal to 0, we'll add 1 to both sides, and we get -7 and positive 1. Okay, a farmer plants a rectangular pumpkin patch in the northeast corner of a square plot of land. So here's the square plot of land. A square means that the sides are the same length. So you guys see this side is marked as S and this side is marked as S. Okay, it's a square plot of land. Here's the pumpkin patch up here. You can barely see it. But the area of the pumpkin patch is, right here, is 600 square meters. What is the area of the square plot of land? Well, right now, we know that it's S times S. That gives us this whole area. So S times S would be S squared. So that's the area of the whole thing. But we actually want to know numerically, like, what is the area? Or what is the side length? Oh, no, we do want to know what is the area of the square plot of land. Okay, well, we have this 600 square meters of the pumpkin patch right here. Okay, so we know that that's part of it. Plus, and then we have this other piece of land. Let's break this up into 2 rectangles here. Okay, pretend like my line is perfect. So the area of this rectangle down here is S times 30, so 30S. So let's add that to our total. And then we just need the other part up here, which is, okay, so this part's 40 times this, the whole side length is S, and then since this part right here is 30, I want to take S and subtract out this part. So so this part right here is S minus 30. So it's that full side length, but we're taking out this 30 meters right here, and that's going to represent that length. So let's take 40 times S minus 30, and that's the area of that rectangle. Remember, area of a rectangle is length times width. Okay, so that's how I'm getting those 3 separate areas. So I'm going to distribute that to get 40S minus 1,200, yep, 1,200. And now let's combine like terms on the right side. We have 600 minus 1,200 is negative 600. Okay, so we have S squared equals negative 600. And then we have 30S plus 40S is 70S. Starts to look like a trinomial almost, right? It's just that we need to put all the terms on one side. Now, this S squared term is already positive, so let's take the other 2 terms and move them over. Okay, so we're going to add 600 to both sides. And then we're going to subtract 70 from both sides. And then that will equal 0. Right? We'll have 0 on the right side because we moved both of those terms. And then make sure you put it in standard form. S squared Which one goes next?
Negative
Good. Negative 70. Good. Negative 70s plus 600. And now we have a trinomial that we're going to factor. I promise the numbers are not bad. It's going to multiply to positive 600 and add to a negative, which means they both have to be what? They both have to be negative. Good. Okay. What are the easiest two numbers that you can think that multiply to 600?
30.
That's what, yep, that means 60 and 10. Yep. Or 30 and 20. Yep. 60 and 10. So negative 60 minus 10 is negative 70. So that's good, right? So I just want to show you, right? Negative 60 times negative 10 is positive 600. That's my last times my last. And then if you check your outer plus inner, you get negative 10 minus 60 is negative 70s, which is good. You guys don't ever have to write that down. I'm just showing you. And then set each factor equal to 0, and we get s equals 60 and s equals 10. And those are for the side lengths. Is the side length 10 meters or is it 60 meters? Well, if this is 40, can s be 10? If this part right here is 40, can this whole side length be 10? No. So what's the only one that makes sense? Yeah. So our side length is 60 meters, so cross off the 10 meters. But they didn't ask me for s. We found s. We know that this is 60 meters times 60 meters, which is what they want. They want the area. So area is 60 times 60, which is 360 meters. Sorry, 3,600 meters squared for our area. Whew. Okay, how do we feel with factoring when a is 1? Give me, yep, I got it, master. This is cool. I still need more practice, and nope, definitely has not clicked yet.